Hello dear students, today we are going to learn about distance. What we are going to do? We are going to learn about distance and then how to measure the distance between them. Okay, so first of all let us know what is distance. You know what is this called? These are called points. So the length of the space between these 2 points. Length of the space between these 2 points, any 2 points, is called the distance between them. Okay. For example, if you are there in Dharmaj is a place or a point if you consider. Petlad is another point. So the distance between, the length between or the space between Petlad to, the length between Petlad to Dharmaj or Dharmaj to Petlad is called the distance between Dharmaj and Petlad. Okay, so between any 2 points we can find out the length. Now if I show you this line segment only, if you take, we use something like this to measure it. What is this called? This is called a scale. So what do? Is we keep it on the one point and then we find from this point till this point what is the distance. Okay, so some for measuring small distances like say in centimeters and all, we know in school we use a scale for measuring the line segment or finding out the length between small distances. Okay, between 2 points which are very close to each other we use a scale. If you go to a tailor shop, in the tailor shop you might have observed the tailor use some other type of measuring instrument or measuring tool which is called a tape. Okay, a measuring tape is used to measure even the curved surfaces. Okay, so there are different types of now we have different types of tools to measure, but when it was not there, how were people measuring the things? If you look at, if you talk with your grandparents, they will talk not in meter or centimeter. They will speak some other span. Do you know what is a span? You see the distance between the top tip of the thumb and the small finger. This distance is called a span. Okay, and then I'll show you some other pictures which people in ancient time they were using uh, these all techniques for measuring, and why we wanted to remove that and use some other methods, that also we will discuss in this video. Now, to measure an unknown quantity, what do? We compare it with a known quantity, and that known quantity should be fixed. So, to measure any unknown quantity, what do? We compare them with a known fixed quantity, and number of times that fixed quantity is repeated is calculated. For example, you don't know the length of a particular thing. So what we do with the help of your hand, like this hand span we take, right? We see how many times the hands are coming there. So that is a known thing to you. Okay. So thus that is called measurement, right? So measurement is the method of comparing an unknown quantity with a known fixed quantity. So what is measurement? Measurement is the method of comparing an unknown quantity with a known fixed quantity. Okay, and that fixed quantity is called unit. Now I told you, now we know centimeter, meter and all those things. But if you ask your grandparents, sometimes your grandparents may be knowing about meter and all these things. If you ask your grandparents or very aged persons, if are there in your house, then you can ask them. They will tell you in their young age, they never have used pencil or scale or any such things. They did not use. What they used is hand span. for measuring. What is handspan? As shown in the figure, the distance between the tip of the thumb and the little finger. This distance is called a span. Now, what is the problem? See, it is easily available, but we usually don't use it now. What is the reason? Uh, do this activity at home. You will come to know. Take one table, or you can take a cloth or anything which is long. You ask your father to measure it with the span. The grandparents, you can ask your little sister if you have, or little brother you have. Ask them to measure. You measure, and your elder sisters or brothers, if you have asked them to measure, ask your parents to measure. So when 10 people measure it, you all will get different measurements. Somebody may get 5 span, somebody may get 3 span, somebody may get 10 span, depending upon the size of the hand, the arm. Okay, if you have a small arm, number of times it will repeat more. If your arm is very big, it will be repeated less number of times. So whatever measurement you get measured by different people, it will not be same. So this was one unit used by them, what is called hand span. Now I'll show you another way. This method is even used now also some by in villages and all. If you go to in south, you can see when you go to buy flowers, malas, venis you call, no? That garlands. They use this distance. They use the length of the mala. They don't use a measuring tape or anything. In front of the temples, they sit with lots of venis or garlands. So how they use is, they use this length. That is from the tip of the fingers to the elbow. This distance is called forearm length. Okay, forearm length is called cubit. Okay, so this was also used by people. Again, what will be the problem? I will show you one example. You will come to know. Here, this one is another way of measuring with the help of a leg of your legs. Also, you can measure. You see, one leg kept forward and leg is kept backward. Okay, so from this tip of the toes to the tip of these toes, that distance is called footstep or pace. Okay, so these are all different units used in ancient time. But as I discussed before, the problem is that the hand span, forearm length, all these things will not be same for everybody. So there can be confusion and misunderstanding, and it won't remain the same when you measure with different people. The measurement will be different. So usually nowadays we don't use it. I'll show you an example. Just observe it and you'll now look at these pictures. There are two people standing. Both of them are showing 1 cubit. You see here, here his cubit is this long. Okay. And what about his cubit? You see, even less than half. Okay. So this problem will be there when you use such units which are not standardized unit. That is why we need a standard unit to measure. What is standard unit? Standard unit means a unit which will remain same everywhere in the world. Okay, wherever you go, it will remain the same all over the world. Such unit is called standard unit. Look at these people. Both of them are showing their 1 cubit. See, if this person gives 1 cubit of cloth or anything to this person, and when he gives back that 1 cubit, so who will be at loss? He will be at loss because his hands are long, so he has to give more clothes to him, or whatever it is, maybe the space or anything. If they count and give 10 cubit of land, okay, if they give like that, then that will be loss for this person. So there may be chances of fight and all. Okay, so that is why we need to have standard unit to avoid any type of confusions and problems between the people who use these measures for sharing things or giving things or taking things. Now, what is a standard unit? A standard unit of measurement is the one which has a fixed value, which does not, fixed value means what, which will not change from person to person or place to place. So a fixed measurement, or a measurement which has a fixed value uh, everywhere or with anybody, means which does not change from person to person and place to place, is called a standard unit of measurement. So it is very much necessary to have a standard unit of measurement for the sake of uniformity in measuring. I told you, when you stitch the clothes or when you measure some of the things, it is very much important that we have a standard measurement, so that the measurement taken by different people will be same. Okay, that means uniformity will be there. Now, whenever you write a measurement, you know that when you measure centimeter, in centimeter, line segment and all, you have already learned, we write a number and along with that, we write centimeter or meter or whatever it is. Okay, that is called the unit. So, every measurement consists of a number and a unit. Okay, so the number shows its magnitude and the unit will show which unit we are using. Okay, if you don't write completely, that means if you write only 1 or 2 or 3, then that measurement is not complete, because if you write 10 for 10 centimeter, I can think it as 10 meter or 10 kilometer, so it may create lots of confusion and miscommunication. So to avoid that, it is very much important to write the unit along with the number for writing any measurement. Now, there are different ways. Some, I told you, to have a uniformity in the measurement of different quantities like length, mass or time or any quantities when you measure. See, if in India we use some measurement and other countries if they use some other unit, that also will create problem. So to avoid that, all the scientists all over the world, they have taken one unit as International System Unit. Okay, that is International System Unit have the unit of this system will have special units for every quantity. Okay, this system international unit is known as SI unit. Okay, SI unit means system international units. Okay, um, for example, we use kilogram, gram, meter, seconds. All these are standard unit or system international units. Okay, so what is the system international unit of measuring length? That is meter. Okay, for measuring the mass is kilogram and measuring the second time is second. So usually we say MKS system. MKS system means meter, kilogram and second. Okay, so we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters. Okay, whenever you write kilo, that means 1000. Centi means out of 100. So centimeter means out of 100. That is 1 centimeter is 1 upon 100 meter. Milli means 1 upon 1000. So these are all you mean sub units and unit which we use, but the standard unit is meter for length. Now, the use of proper unit for measuring the length is very much important. The type of a unit that we use or we depend on the magnitude of the length to be measured. Okay, so if you have to measure very small unit, we may use millimeter. Little bigger, we will use centimeter. little more bigger, longer, we may use meter, and if it is too much too long, then we use kilometer. For example, when you measure your notebook, you may use centimeter, but when you measure your classroom, you may use meter. But if you measure the length between Dharmaj to Petlad or Dharmaj to Khambat, we use kilometer. So depending upon the uh, distance, magnitude of the distance, we use different units for writing the or measuring the length. Very small units are usually shown using millimeters. Okay, now I'll show you usually how they write this units. See, millimeter. Millimeter is written as mm, and then from there centimeter, then from there meter, and from there kilometer. Okay, so if you have 100 centimeter, you get 1 meter, and if you have 1000 millimeter, then it is 1 meter, and 1000 meter stands for kilometer. Okay, so the word kilo, whenever you write kilo, it means 1000. Whenever you write milli, it means 1 upon 1000. Milli means 1 upon 1000. Okay, so these are all smaller units, conversion factors they are called. So whenever you want to convert kilometer to meter, you need to multiply by 1000. Whenever you have to convert meter to kilometer, you need to divide. Okay, all this you might have learned in maths also. Now let us discuss some of the devices which we use for measuring length. There are different types of devices which we use or tools we use for measuring length. One is very much familiar to you, that is the scale. Small scales are also there and meter scales are also there. Okay, rulers are also called meter scales. And then we have measuring tapes. Usually the tailors and all, they use this way tapes. Now you might have seen Hemant sir using this type of our P teachers using this type of long tape for measuring and drawing the tracks and all. They both types of tapes are there with them. Okay, because if you want to use even the curved surfaces, if you have to measure, this will be useful. Okay, if the object is straight, then we can use either meter scale or measuring tape. This one is straight one, you cannot, okay, this one can be used to measure the straight ones, but this one can be used easily for measuring the length of objects which are round in shape. Okay, so today we discussed what is distance and how they are measured, what are the tools used to measure them, what are the units used to measure them, and how to write the measurements. How to write the measurements? Whenever we write the measurement, we should think of two things. What are the two things? Magnitude as well as units. Okay, so then we discussed about different units. Which are the different units? Kilometer, meter, centimeter, millimeter. And then we discussed about standard unit. Standard unit of length is meter, and depending upon the need, okay, we use different types of units. If it is very small ones, we use millimeter or centimeter. Little bigger one, we use meter, and very long distances we use kilometer. Now how to use or how to measure the length and what all precautions should be taken while measuring length, that all we will discuss in the next class. That's all for today. Thank you.